Hi, my name is Michelle Manetti. I am a DJ, a producer, a club night promoter. And you are here this evening at the launch of my new club night, Fèmmme.
Tienes la clica esa detectada ya de tantos microbios. No sirves para nada. Tú eres una puta mala. Vendiendo las cosas en todas las esquinas que puedes.
So I set up Fèmmme Fraîche about 8 years ago. We actually had another party before that. I used to run it with a friend of mine called Sandra, who no longer runs it with me. She just took a step away from nightlife. So now I run it on my own. But we set up a space, I guess 9 years ago now, and the night was called Pitch Slap. And it was really because for me, for Sandra, for a lot of my friends, and there were loads of really great East London lesbian parties, but nothing that had house music. It was all kind of pop or R&B or kind of more commercial stuff. We just really wanted a space that had house music, so we just made a party. And it did really well, and Sandra had quite a lot of friends that were big DJs from like the States. So we had people like Lauren Flax come over, we had people like Keman come over, who were like big people over in the States. And eventually Dawson Superstore kind of saw what we were doing and said, hey, do you want to bring a party like that here? And so Fèmmme Fraîche was born. And it's just kind of grown into this kind of wonderful community platform, which I get to book lots of people kind of from the scene that are just coming through the ranks, like have just started DJing, book dancers, book performers, everything and everyone involved in it, apart from my resident who is a gay guy, but everyone else is FLINTA. And it's really about kind of creating a platform and a community space for FLINTA people. So I actually first started DJing, I think I just had my 20th anniversary in like January. So it's quite a long time. And it was sort of this weird accidental happening. I was actually a vocalist and doing a lot of session stuff for people and doing session vocals and being in the studio and just singing other people's songs. And then I realised that I didn't want to be just a puppet singing other people's stuff. And I wanted to learn how to make my own music. I wanted to learn how to produce my own tracks that I could sing on. And the guy that I was working in the studio with said, hey, well, like, I can show you around the studio and I can help you kind of learn a few things. And this was in Brighton. And I did. And then eventually I went and studied music production at university. And whilst I was studying, for me, it was always about house music. I always was a big fan of house music and wanted to sing and produce house music and dance music. And whilst I was at university, I thought, well, if I'm going to be able to produce a good track, I kind of need to know what works on a dance floor. So I just bought some decks and learned how to DJ. And then 20 years later, I'm still here. It's crazy. Like I started on the queer scene down in Brighton and was given my first DJ set by this kind of really legendary promoter down there called Dulcie Danger, who now kind of runs Brighton Pride, who, funny enough, actually just booked me to play Brighton Pride a couple of weeks ago. So it was a bit of a full circle moment. And she gave me my first DJ set, and really back then the scene was incredibly segregated. It wasn't queer, it was kind of very gay, it was very kind of lesbian, and it was very like gay men, and there wasn't really any alternative spaces. And it's so nice to see now that, especially in London, there's like so many different genres of parties, and you can really be hone in on kind of what your style is and what your energy is and what your and find your people, rather opposed to just going to a gay night because you kind of want to be around gay people. And the scene in London has just opened up, and there's so many amazing queer parties that are happening now. And it's really lovely to see that. And it's really lovely to see that these spaces are much more mixed as well, less segregated, and just much more diverse, which is always a big thumbs up. Recently played Block 9 at Glastonbury, which was like a massive box tick, like iconic gig for me. And again, it was kind of this weird happy accident. I played Block 9 a couple of years ago. It was my first time at Glasto. And so this was my second time at Glastonbury, and I was supposed to be doing a back-to-back with Rich Demi Requismo, who I do a lot of back-to-backs with, on Genesis, which is the stage outside. And then last minute, someone couldn't play their set at Block 9, in Down Low. And so they kind of called me and said, instead of doing your back-to-back, would you want to do a set at NYC Down Low, which of course is like the gig I've been desperate to do for so many years. Even before going to Glastonbury, it's like everybody knows how iconic it is, especially as a queer space. So of course I said yes. And it was everything that I kind of dreamed of. And I really wanted to make something really, really special, because I know that space kind of has a very specific kind of sonic sound. You know, it is very much kind of like encompassing the sound of like old New York queer clubs and gay spaces. And so I did really a lot of digging and found most of the tracks that I played in my set were all tracks from kind of like 90s New York labels, or like New York kind of producers and artists, and just really wanted to make it kind of this set which really tells a story about New York, and hopefully I feel like it translated. So and obviously, like, once upon a time I was a singer. I started life as a singer. I don't do that much anymore, but through my set I decided to just throw a little kind of something extra special in there, and I actually grabbed the microphone and started singing as well, and I think it went down well. I think it's really important for me to do stuff for the community, I think, because for me particularly, in my kind of adolescence and like in my kind of late teens, early 20s, and finding myself, the queer scene was so important to me, and really important for me to kind of figure out who I was, find my friends, find my people, find myself. And the queer community is really a space that kind of welcomes you with open arms, really allows you to be your authentic self. And that really meant so much to me when I was in my kind of 20s and in my adolescent years. And so for me, it just feels so important for me to be able to kind of give that back to the community and create spaces which gives other people that same thing that I had when I was really finding myself. And there are moments when I have people who come up to me and be like, thank you so much for making Fèmmme Fraîche. Like, I met my girlfriend there, or I met my partner there, or I met some of my best friends there. And like, you know, it really helped me when I was first coming out. And it's like, this is exactly why I run this space, because I had that and it was so important to me. And it's so nice to know that I'm doing that for other people. When I'm looking at gigs, I do take each gig completely individually, because, you know, especially if you're playing at a festival, you know, depending on the time that you're playing, depending on the set time that you've got, depending on who you're playing before or after, you really have to kind of mould that set depending on, you know, where you are and the place you are and the setting you are. And it's always really dependable on my crowd. Like, one of the things that I always say is, like, my best sets are only as good as my crowd are. And I do really, like, spend all of my time just basically prepping for sets and like finding new music and digging for new music. And even though I do have kind of like quite a sound, it is also really eclectic. I kind of pride myself on being like a genre non-conformist, and just like to be really adaptable and like to have enough music to kind of dip into that I could just create something really special for each thing. So yeah, I kind of approach every single gig and every single festival that I play as if it's a kind of whole entirely new thing, and really prep and find new music and yeah, try and find something really special. And you know, I speak to loads of my other DJ friends, and sometimes it's like, you know, that you'll have a bad day in the office. Like, sometimes gigs don't go the way that you expect them to, and you know, I think as entertainers and performers, we're expected to be like 100% all the time, and it's just not possible. And there are some gigs that you walk away from and you just think, oh, I didn't play my best, or the crowd wasn't really feeling it, or I didn't really get that vibe from them. And I think especially as someone who is like neurodivergent, I really take that personally, like rejection sensitivity, and I want every single set to be really special. And I speak to lots of other friends who feel the same way, and you just can't. But when you do get those magic sets, it's like life-changing. It really is. Like, I feel it's like a whole body experience, it's just this magical entity that not only you're feeling, but you're kind of spreading this to all of the people in front of you, and you just feel it and you lock in, and it's just this magical feeling. And I can, I want every single set to be like that, but it isn't possible. But there's just, there have been some really magical ones. And actually, most of my best sets that I've ever played have been Adonis New Year's Day. And every single time, it's like everyone there brings their absolute A game, and everyone there is like, I think it's also just because it's like, it's New Year's Day, this is the start of the new year, this is how we want the rest of the year to feel, and everyone's just got this energy about them, like, out with the old, in with the new, here we are, let's celebrate, start as we mean to go on, and it's kind of like, this is how my year's going to start, and every single time it's like, oh my God, this is so great. And yeah, I'd say they're probably my highlight gigs for sure. Yeah, what's next on the agenda for me? I have just done a really big remix, which is very, very exciting. I got a phone call a few weeks back whilst I was at Love International from the manager of The Blessed Madonna. And they were like, she's a really big fan, we'd really love you to do her remix. By the way, it features Kylie. Which to me was like, I'm going to be remixing Kylie, this is ridiculous. And yeah, the track came out this week, and the remixes are going to be coming out like in a few months' time. And I'm really grateful that it's potentially quite a life-changing moment, I guess. And also Hannah Holland's also done a remix as well, so it's just really nice to be like, homies, it's so great. And keeping it in the queer scene. And yeah, I guess next on the agenda is like, let's see where that takes me, I guess. And just keep playing, keep smiling.